there, this is Linda Stern.
And this is John Stern.
Welcome to our home here in Irvine. We wish that we could have you all in our home and we'd be having refreshments and wine and a great old time. But since we can't do that, we decided we would virtually invite you to see our home and art collection. We hope you'll enjoy it. We've been avid collectors for a long time, John for most of his life. So we have more than 100 paintings on our walls. You're not really a collector until you have more than 100 paintings up and you have them under the beds and in the closets too. Anyway, we're going to start with a few of our favorites. We're just going to highlight some paintings because we certainly can't get you through 100 paintings. Anyway, we'll start here in our hallway as we come in. And one of the first prominent paintings is this wonderful piece by Brian Mark Taylor of the California Art Club. John?
Brian is really a wonderful painter. He was very good at painting night scenes. And I always loved his night scenes. So we're very happy to have this very, very big view of a street in Sacramento at night. It's just very powerful, emotional, and he's able to capture the glow and the movement and the reflection of the lights.
Notice how the brush strokes are just dabs, and yet as I back up, it almost seems like a photograph. Hard to do in a big painting like this. Let's move on. We have here our hallway to our garage, we call our Crystal Cove corner. Here is a wonderful painting by Michael Situ. This painting is the original green garages at Crystal Cove. They were used for storage. They were real funky. And Michael painted this right before they tore them down and put up new fancy garages, which just don't have the same plein air feel to them that these do. Here's a wonderful painting by Rita Pacheco, showing the old cottages before they have been renovated at all. You know, happy painting with the crowds. And this is really a very, very sweet painting that we love dearly. It's a painting by April Raber, who passed away just a year or two ago, and we really treasure it. It's in her distinct style. Oh, one last painting in this hall is a wonderful painting of Aliso Creek, the hills above Aliso Creek Park, by John Burton, who also is a wonderful animation painter at this point. But, I hope you're not getting dizzy here.
Yeah.
Anyway, this painting, John will say a few words, by Hu Lai Chong of Hong Kong, originally Hong Kong and now of Maryland.
I have a particular like, as you saw earlier with Brian's painting, for night scenes. And they tend to capture a very spiritual feeling if it's done right. And Hu Lai is absolutely great at doing night scene. This is the coast of Laguna Beach. This is Heisler Park at night. This was painted during one of the La Papa Laguna Plein Air Painters Invitationals a few years back.
That's really, just has a great feel, the fog coming in at night, and it just changes color in different times of day, and we really love it. Okay, as we walk into our living room, here's probably the jewel of John's collections.
This is one of the first paintings I bought by California painters. This is by Sam Hyde Harris, who was very active in the club in the 1940s and 50s. This was painted in the 1920s. And he also was very mystical about his paintings, and he made a point of painting when the fog was still there. Most artists would say, well, I'll wait till the fog leaves. But he lived in the San Gabriel Valley, and this is one of those old barns from the mid-20s. But you can see this tremendous depth that he's able to capture, because he knows how to do this. He can control his color, and he can control this beautiful sense of space that's done by modulating the light and the fog.
Yes, and as we come towards May and June, often we wake up, look outside, and say, oh, it's a Sam Hyde Harris Day. Really, code word for June gloom. Up here, we have a sweet little painting by Jesse Powell. And this painting is of Irvine. He used to have a studio up above Irvine in the hills, and he's sort of looking back at where we live, and so we just had to have that because we're across that valley is where we are now.
We'd be in one of these buildings.
Yeah, we're across here. Anyway, so it kind of is good for our home. Anyway, here's our living room, pan out, and as you can see, you need to be able to hang your paintings at least 3 or 4 high. As we might getting a lot of glare in the sun, we're going to reach these paintings here. This is a wonderful painting by Jeff Horn, who John's known for at least 20 years or more.
Yes, Jeff's a good friend of mine, and about 22 years ago, I went to one of his studio shows, and I just fell in love with this painting. Again, a beautiful sense of deep space, and this artist knows how to use color and knows how to control the values to create this sense of very large space.
Unfortunately, there's a shard of light coming from the window right across the point to.
Yeah,
that's not the painting, that's just some light that we can't correct for at this point. As we move around the room, John wants to point out a very prominent painting in our living room.
This is one of my favorite paintings. It's by a woman named Marika Gopal, who was the assistant director at the Irvine Museum for many years. And she paints in pointillism, which means 2 things, that she's really good and that she's kind of nuts, because there must be 100,000 little dots of paint in this painting, but the effect is tremendous.
Yeah, you can see the dots. This is what that Sunday in the Park painting is like in Paris.
Georges Seurat.
That's right. I don't know that she does much of this anymore. Probably drove her crazy. Let's point out this little corner we have with a mirror. You can see me with the camera here. This is our miniature section. And it's really fun to collect miniatures. You can have lots of them because they don't take up much space. But we have some really special ones.
Here's one by Peter Adams.
That's a Peter.
And it goes very well with this miniature by Granville Redmond. This is Elizabeth Borglum, who was at one time married to Gutzon Borglum, the man that carved Mount Rushmore. And then this is a sweet little painting, which the name escapes me right now, but it's a Canadian artist, Rosaire, a wonderful artist that came to live in the United States. So just love little miniatures, and as you can see, you can hang a whole bunch of them on the wall. This over here, I really want to point out. This is a sculpture by
Merritt Garland.
Merritt Gage.
Merritt Gage, sorry.
That was a political announcement. Anyway, this is solid Vermont limestone, and it weighs a ton. And Merrill Gage, a great artist, also a very active member of the California Art Club. This is his daughter, Jean. He carved this about 1925, 1926. And it's a beautiful, very Art Deco looking sculpture, which I acquired from the family after one of the daughters died.
And here are a few more of our miniatures. This little one by Jeff Sewell, who's also a club member, and another Brian Mark Taylor. And then this really cute painting of the Pixar headquarters by Ernesto Nemesio, a wonderful club member who's up in that area and works for Pixar during the day. And in his spare time, he's a great plein air painter.
And don't forget the beautiful Moonrise by Dan Gazet, a very quick little sketch, a beautiful little sketch. So that's also part of it. This is by Mrs. Matthews, Arthur Matthews' wife. This is from the Matthews furniture factory. It was made about 1915, and it's a little humidor. So charming little.
One of the older things in our collection. And anyway, let's come over to this other side of the room. Sorry, the sun is really coming around here. We just want to point out over here this wonderful painting by Greg LaRocque. And many of you may remember Greg, and he passed away this year, just less than 6 months ago. And this is a painting that we acquired at a Capistrano art show that Joan Irvine Smith put on. When was that?
That was about the time we met, about 2005, 2006.
Right, and so this is a very early painting for him. He got a lot tighter with his style as time went by, but we really love this one, and now it's a real treasure since we lost him. And right above that, a great painting by Scott Burdick.
This is a painting that I watched Scott paint in Catalina. This is one of the Plein Air Painters of America sessions that used to be in Avalon, and you could see there's other artists painting, but I watched Scott paint this, and I walked around and saw the other artists, and I came by and I said, Scott, I want to buy this, and he was very delighted. Then I went to get a drink, and I came by and I noticed he had gotten all, I said, oh, Scott, you got all loose. That's great, because you're really tight up here. He said, no. He said, a couple of kids went by and watched him paint and said, hey, man, mister, is that difficult? He said, no, you try it. So he let him put 3 or 4 brush strokes on there. So
well, I think it
he's
adds
a character
to the painting. So let's go over to this wall where we have 2 really stunning paintings by Jesse Powell on one wall. It's kind of our Jesse wall here. And the top one is, I think, up in his area in Monterey, of rocks and the surf. And the bottom one is, where was, I think it was Paso Robles area or something?
It could be, but it was beautiful sense of light. And also what I like about this painting is the artist puts you in a shady area, and then there's like these jail bars, but there's an opening where you can go to a much brighter area. So it's a very uplifting painting to me.
Do you have a favorite paintbrush you want to show? Over the years, John's collected some things that have to do with late artists, club members. And
this is a paintbrush that Edgar and Elsie Payne used. I knew the daughter, Elsie, very well. Evelyn, I'm sorry. Yeah. And I one day asked her, I said, do you have any of your parents' brushes? And she said, oh yes, I have a few. And she sent me 3 or 4 of them. So this was used by Edgar and then later by Elsie. One of these here, this one was used by, this is a palette knife used by Sam Hyde Harris, because I knew the widow, and also I was able to get material from her. So there's all sorts of stuff here. Just
fun, and of course, this is our bookcase that has copies of all these books that John's written in. Many of them Irvine Museum books, and many of them from Laguna Museum and the old Pasadena Museum of California Art. And John, of course, was a contributor to so much of that we need a whole bookcase for it.
Well, this is by Kevin McPherson.
Oh, right.
Selections on a Pond. And I wrote the introduction to that. And in gratitude, he gave me one of his pochade boxes. with one of the paintings from the pond. He did this series of the pond where he produced one for every single day of the year. And he just went out there in the backyard and painted what he saw. It took him about 2 years to do it because he travels a lot.
Yeah, and these paintings are just, 6 by 8?
Yes, that's right.
6 by 8, and each one came with its own box that he painted it. Well, special ones. Yeah, I guess he just did this for people like John. So it's a very prized possession. And you can see he signed it right there. Today we'd have to go down to Mexico in order to get a signature of Kevin's. And here's, this is a pot full of brushes that were presented to John by members of Plein Air Painters of America and for Laguna Plein Air Painters, and
they're all autographed.
All signed.
So.
Where's the one by Ken Oster? We have to have that wrapped in plastic because
it'll never dry.
Ken Oster
Pen
painted.
is noted for using thick, there's another one. I mean, they're just masses of paint. And he told me when he gave them to me, he said, keep them away from open flame because they're still very soft. There's so much paint on them.
They're like, yeah, sticks of. All right, so now let's move over to, we turned our dining room into a TV room because that's much more practical today. Nobody really uses their dining rooms much. And here's a wonderful painting. John will tell you a little bit about this by Jennifer McChristian, who's an LA artist.
Yeah, I've known Jennifer for a long time. She's one of the best artists that we know. In fact, we collect a lot of paintings from artists that we know. And they're very, very nice people, and we are very picky about what we buy. Now, this one I saw in her studio, and it is in New York. It's the Clinton Deli Grocery, and it's a wonderful painting because this beautiful ray of light guides you to the brightest part of the painting. If it had been an hour earlier, this is the light that comes between the buildings, it would have lit up this empty door. So she really composed it not only with lines and with objects, but with the direction of the light which guides the viewer to what it is she wants you to see.
Yeah, you can see, I've watched her paint, and she puts down this underpainting of this sort of bright coral color, as you can see, little spots. And then as she paints, she covers most of it, but a little bit of it hangs on and just brightens the painting so much. And, oh, gee, where did this come from? Oh, here's John's medal, which I can't pronounce. Say it, John.
It's the Chevalier de l'Ordre des Arts et des Lettres. It was presented by the French Ministry of Culture because of my lifelong involvement in the art and having to do with Impressionism and California Impressionism. So I was very honored. This was in 2017, and it was a great honor to be recognized by the French government for what I did with art here in the United States.
Well, we framed it. Otherwise, I think he'd be tempted to sort of wear it around all day, and I'd have to bow down. That would be terrible.
No, as most of you know, I was born in Casablanca, and we came to the United States. Today is February 26. We came on February 26, 1955. So this is the 66th anniversary of the Stern family coming to the United States. So we're very proud to be American citizens. We're still French citizens, and it's just wonderful to be in this country.
Well, I tell you, it certainly increased the art appreciation in America when the Sterns came to this country with all the galleries and art history.
Yeah, I always say you can't throw a frame in Los Angeles without hitting a Stern.
Yeah. Anyway, here's the wall behind our couch. As you can see, we keep thinking we need to put some more up and go even higher, but then they're hard to see. They get, I'm short, they're too hard for me to look at. But
this is a Jesse Powell.
There's another Jesse Powell of
another night scene.
A night scene.
Another night scene by Wendy Worth. This is in New York, which is unusual.
Yeah, Wendy usually paints these delightful Laguna Beach scenes with pathways going along the ocean, but this one was so unusual. That's one of the reasons we liked it so much.
And this is another night scene by Wes Fraser, who lives in Charleston. I've known Wes for many, many years, and I've written introductions to 2 of his books, and he very kindly gave me this painting. And I said, do you paint night scenes? And this is what he sent me. So it was very beautiful painting and very, very nice, generous guy. Wes is just such a good painter.
Let's go over here and take in one of the historic paintings in our collection.
This is by Luvina Buchanan Visekal. She was married to Edward Visekal. Both were modernist painters, both were members of the California Art Club. This is unusual because she painted lots of still lifes, but it has California poppies in it. So it really is a special painting. And on top of that, it's a wonderful example of an approach to painting, very geometric, that's kind of related to dynamic symmetry. But there's all sorts of lines here. And it is very mathematically planned with pencil lines all over before she actually painted it. So there's this real strong composition that's geometrically based. So
what year do you think that is?
It's about 1925, 1930.
Okay. And here above is a Greg Hall. This painting, he lives in Arizona near Phoenix. And this painting is a very, very impressionist style, very French impressionist, dissolving forms, some fog rising in the background. Wonderful example. And in a few minutes we'll show you other work by Greg Hall, much more studio-based. And this is a very special painting too. This is by Jacobus Boss, who paints in Hawaii and Laguna and various places. And this painting was he did in Catalina.
Yeah, this is, again, the light is controlled by the color, by the application of color. And you could see that there's a very strong difference between the shadow, which is purpley, and the reflection on the wet sand. And the light effect is very strong here because, again, the artist knows how to use color and how to put color properly.
Let's go to this John Budison, see if I can reach it up here.
This is one of the first paintings I bought by a living artist, John Budison, a very good friend of ours. This is downtown Santa Ana. It was painted about 25 years ago. I was judging a show at the Bowers Museum, and no, I'm sorry, this show was at the Mission Capistrano, and I saw this painting, and I had to have it, so here it is, and it's one of the most beautiful paintings we own, and just very well done. This is by Frank Myers, who was an Eastern artist, but he came to live in California, in Northern California, so he never got to join the California Art Club.
But that's, he's one of the dead guys.
Yeah, it's a Monterey painter done about 1950. And then Alfred Mitchell, another of the classic San Diego Impressionists. This is a view of Noyo Harbor. And what impressed me about this painting is it's painted on an almost black background, and then he develops the light by using the color. So one of the great San Diego painters, Alfred Mitchell, he and Maurice Braun are probably the two best known.
Let's take in a couple paintings here. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a light problem here. I'll do it on the side. This is a wonderful painting by Kim Lordier, pastel artist from just south of San Francisco. And this painting we bought very early after I met John. He happened to be invited to judge a show at the Napa Museum, and we went up, and this painting was in the show and won a prize. And we would never, buy the painting that John gave the prize to, but somebody else bought it. And after some months, the person, for some reason, didn't want to keep it and sent it back to Kim. And Kim called us and said it's available. And we bought it at that time and brought it down here. And it's just got a stunning amount of light. The way she develops.
And it's all pastel. She's an excellent pastel painter. And this people that have seen this painting have loved it because it, again, I can't stress the importance of being able to create the true feeling of natural light. And that's what I look for. I look for the ability to draw something. The tree looks like a tree. You can tell it's a eucalyptus. You can tell it's a citriodora because of the way the clumps are. But also you get this tremendous sense of light. So a very, very well painted work.
And over here, another historic painting that is a watercolor, that sometimes this painting I think John bought on eBay.
This is an Arthur Beaumont. It's dated 1939. Don't buy paintings on eBay unless you really know what you're doing. But I lucked out. This is a beautiful painting of the fishing boats in LA Harbor. Again, a watercolor by one of the great watercolor painters.
And not to be missed is this painting by Peter Adams,
Who?
our club
Peter
president.
Adams, yes.
I mean, what collection is complete without a Peter Adams? And I think this was done down in that Oceanside, Carlsbad area.
Yeah, it's a pastel. Again, being able to control your color is really the secret to the success as a plein air painter.
And look at the beautiful, beautiful colors that you see, the turquoise and the sun coming through. It's just so opalescent. And I know John wants to mention this painting because it's so unusual in our collection.
This is unusual in the history of California Impressionism because it's an abstract painting, and it's by Ruth Peabody, who was one of the important painters in Laguna Beach. This was done in 1937. She had a big show at the Laguna Beach Art Association of abstract paintings. I think there were 15 paintings. And it was very unusual at the time because nobody in Southern California, let alone Laguna Beach, painted abstract. So she produced a series of these, which she never did again. She went back to painting realistically. But again, this is an unusual painting. It has broken elements of recognizable images that are put together in a very strange way. But there's also this very strong sense of line, which again has to do with that geometrical approach to painting, which is related to dynamic symmetry.
And wasn't her mother also a significant Laguna Beach painter? Eleanor Colburn.
Yes, that's right, Eleanor Colburn.
We don't have a painting by her, but...
We'll have one soon.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Don't get dizzy. I'm going to try to bring you over here and mention two paintings that one next to each other. This is Colin Page, who is a California Art Club member but lives in Maine, on the coast of Maine. And we actually bought this painting from a charity auction that was supporting people. I think it was from the hurricane Forgotten Coast. He painted this.
This is in Apalachicola,
right,
Florida.
One of those old buildings down there, and we were happy to support that cause because we've been there a couple of times for plein air events. And this is another treasured painting by Ken Oster, the late great Ken Oster.
I knew Ken Oster very well, and we saw his brushes. And this is a San Francisco scene of the trolley cars, but there's this beautiful dynamic design and the cars, the street. He's one of these artists that I really admired because he'd say, most people say, well, what are you doing painting cars? Go paint a landscape. But no, he saw beauty and he saw wonderful structures in a painting like this. So this was dedicated to my friend Jean by Ken Oster. That was in 1999. So I had known him a long, long time. Wonderful painter.
Yeah, we really miss Ken. Anyway, we, oops, let me have a lot of paintings here. Even in the hallways, we have triple hanging. This is another historic painting by a woman artist named...
This is Mabel Alvarez. She was born in Hawaii, but came to California, lived most of her life, was a very active member of the California Art Club. And this is a painting that she did in Hawaii because these are Hawaiian. Let me see if this helps.
Oh.
These are Hawaiian fruits. And she loved to do these beautiful, simple little still lifes, which are not simple at all. So this, again, I bought on eBay, so be careful, guys.
I know. And up right above it, this is our sort of still life wall, is a great still life by Amanda Fish, another club member who does these wonderful, precious, with a lot of hydrangeas, and she likes to put lemons and other fruit in them. And it's just a beautiful painting. And, we can brag. We're one of the few families you'll ever know that has a Percy Gray watercolor in their guest bathroom. So we might as well show it off since we have it. And he was the great watercolorist of Monterey Peninsula.
Yes, it's the bathroom is always dark and rarely used, so that justifies. Here's another watercolor.
We keep the light down in
This
here.
is a British Victorian watercolor, an unfinished watercolor, but you can see a tight, not the California watercolor style at all. This is the traditional British watercolor. Gorgeous painting, man, unfinished, and I like it because it shows how the artist was progressing, what they were thinking.
Well, and Percy was in that tonalist, more kind of European style
he was
watercolor.
Also influenced by the European. This is a very rare painting. There's only a few of these, maybe 4 in existence. This is by a woman named Jean Stern.
Oh.
It was painted in the 1980s. This is my backyard at the time when I was working for Peterson Galleries.
John, we have to move along, as they say.
But that's such an important painting.
I know you like to think that. This is our office, and right here is a very famous guy. Look at this painting by Greg Hull. And this painting is how many years old, John?
It's dated 1978. That's when I met Greg. I've known him for 40 plus years. And this is a portrait he did of me when I was working at Peterson Galleries. That's why I'm all dressed up and, look like a very fancy salesperson at a very expensive art gallery. But he is a wonderful friend of ours. He also did paintings of my wife at the time and my kids. He was just a delightful artist, and he needed a push. And he came to see me at Peterson. I didn't know who he was. And I said, well, we don't represent living artists. So I sent him across the street to my brother Louis, who was the director of Wally Findlay Galleries. And they signed him for years. He painted a beautiful still lifes, a remarkable artist.
Yeah, well, Greg is still a great painter. And recently, he redid the portrait of John. He came down here to our house, and he did this one. So
this is 40 years later.
40 years later, but you can see Greg's artistic style is still great.
I told him to make it look exactly as I am.
Yeah, and actually, I have to say, seeing this painting of him and then seeing his baby picture, isn't it amazing how much he still looks like that? Moving on. We just want to point out that this is not an original, it's a print, but it's a special gift, was given to us by the late Gail Roski. whom I know you all know, and she did this watercolor painting of the old Irvine Museum, and she even put us in it. You know, we're some of
That's
the
me.
people
That's you.
holding the sign, and she got the kids coming, and I think that's supposed to be Peter Adams painting for the kids. But
Yeah, that is
there
such a-
is an original of this that I'm not sure where it is, but we were really thrilled to get this one. Oh, and John wants to point out in his miniature collection, this one is a miniature William Wendt. From when?
This was painted probably about 1920, but on the back it's written by, this is the handwriting of Anna Hills, and it says donated to Laguna Beach Art Association by the artist William Wendt, 1922. So in 1921-22, the Art Association held these little miniature sales, and they were raising money to buy the lot, which is where the museum now stands. It was owned by a Mr. Heisler, and he gave him a very good deal. They were able to raise the money, a lot of it by selling these little miniatures, and they bought the lot, and then they built the building, which is now the Laguna Art Museum.
Can you imagine if you could raise enough money to build a museum today selling miniatures? This painting is by Edgar Payne's wife, Elsie Payne, who was a really substantial artist in her own right and doesn't always get the same amount of attention that Edgar gets. But she was a wonderful painter, and this painting has just glorious color and the flowers. And
it's called Morning Sunshine. These are zinnias. This was the outcome of working with Evelyn Payne, the daughter who passed on about 5 years ago. And we had a big show, a big retrospective with a book for Elsie Payne, the wife of Edgar, at Peterson Galleries. And this was one of the paintings there. And I was amazed at the use of color, all these complementary colors, this terrific sense of light. So I had to have it.
well, moving on, we'll move to our master bedroom. There's just so many paintings, it's like, oy. And let's see if we can focus in on this painting. Maybe if we do a little bit with the, yeah, that helps. This wonderful still life, which is a big painting, is by Jim McVicker. And everybody, you know, who's associated with the California Art Club knows about Jim McVicker's fabulous still lifes. And he always puts these kind of Indian-looking blankets in them and wonderful flowers.
This is a painting of textures. There's the soft carpet, the flowers, and then the very hard glaze, the medium glaze, the wood, which is unvarnished, the wood which is painted, all sorts of beautiful textures that he is so good at producing. And this is one of the lovely paintings of McVicker.
Yeah, he told us you always have to paint the flowers first because they die. And then over here, this is one of the earliest paintings that we ever received together, because this is a painting of John and me before we were married by the great Kevin McPherson, and it was painted in Catalina Island.
Yes, we were at an exhibit there for the Plein Air Painters of America, and I was doing a lecture, and we were staying in a hotel right on the water, and as we came down one morning, he had his class there. And he said, "Oh, do you guys mind sitting down and I'll just paint you quickly?" We said, no. It took 2 hours of sitting down before he was finally finished, because every time he did a brushstroke, he addressed his class. And it took forever, but then he gave it to us as a wedding present.
Yeah, he really is something, and people love to. He's very flamboyant when he paints, and he tells jokes, and everyone has a great time. And somehow or other, he produces these wonderful paintings with, I don't know, it must go directly from his brain to his brush, because he was chattering the whole time. And, here is one more Greg Hall, which is a very important painting. It's a large piece, and this was also done very early in Greg's career.
This was done in 1976 when he was in Spain with his wife and his mother-in-law. So it's called Mima. And again, the control of the light, the transparency of these opaque colors, the way the light comes right through and affects every part of the painting. It's remarkable that you can get this type of beautiful light by using thick oil paints.
Well, and what is this painting? It's contre-jour.
It is contre-jour. You get an A. Good.
And why do we say contre-jour? Because you always get more money when it sounds like a French word instead of just saying it's backlit.
That's true.
That's a great
You're
John
going to be a Stern art
Stern
dealer
phrase.
soon.
And we might mention this painting just because this artist also just passed away recently in the last 3 or 4 months.
This is by Terry DeLapp. And he started out as an art dealer, and I used to do business with him in Peterson Galleries in the late 70s, early 80s. Then he retired, went to Cambria, and started painting these wonderful, almost abstract color field paintings. But there's always a little identifiable subject matter that.
Well, I love this painting because not only just has this calming feel because it has the blues and greens and the horizontal lines, but it's kind of an agricultural painting, and that was my field before I met John. I was an agricultural economist, so I love that painting. And here's another Visacal, but
This is the husband. This is Edward Visacal. And this is a watercolor of one of the neighborhood kids wearing the kimono. So again, the watercolor, he was a very good friend of Stanton McDonald Wright, and you could see the influence by the colors, the way the colors are applied, and the strong complementaries that are very close to each other.
and below that, a painting that we love to show people. John will show this in a lecture. This painting is an 8 by 10, but when you see it close up, it looks like a huge painting. Look at all that detail. It's a wonderful desert scene by Matt Smith. Is that the Sonoran Desert up in
Yes,
where
it's
he
just
lives?
outside of Scottsdale.
And look at the light on those cactus, and it just looks like so much bigger painting than 8 by 10. And we know it's great because even Matt shows it in a lot of his lectures and classes, but hey, we have it. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't show a painting by Michael Obermeyer, the vice president of the California Art Club.
Yes, this is one that I bought from Mike, maybe 22 years ago. And it's of Scotch Cove, which is the cove that's right next to Crystal Cove. And I really love the way the sunset was created, the light, and the movement of the waves. Mike is a great artist.
And this is something, these paintings in our bedroom are very calming. It's nice to have artwork around you that you feel when you go to bed at night, when you wake up in the morning, they just make you feel good. And here are 3 little miniatures.
This is the entirety of our Edgar Payne collection. We have 3 Edgar Paynes. The one you're looking at right now they're all 2.5 by 3 1/4 inches. And they were all painted in 1921 for an important banquet that his dealer gave.
See them?
Sorry, it is hard to see him. But
That's okay.
so here's the painting. That's the original frame is that little one inside. And this was for a Stendhal banquet. Earl Stendhal, his dealer, decided to finance his very first trip to Europe. Edgar had never been to Europe. So they were going to throw a surprise dinner for him. But he found out, and he made one of these for every attendee. And this one was made for Alson Skinner Clark. And it is signed, it's inscribed by Edgar to Clark, and then it's signed Oscar, and there's the Stendhal label. So I prize this little piece very highly. I got this from my brother George, and one day Edgar's daughter, Evelyn, came to visit me, and she saw this. And she says, "Oh, you have one of Daddy's little paintings." I said, "Yes, I'm so happy to have it." He said, "Well, there are 2 leftovers, which I'll send to you." And she sent me 2 extra ones that were, leftovers because Edgar didn't need, just wanted to be sure he got everybody covered. And she gave me these 2 little leftovers. So exactly the same frame, little tiny frame, but there's no dedication and no label on the back.
Nice to be John Stern, isn't it?
Well,
You get some perks. And
I got you, didn't
here,
I?
oh yeah. Here in the bedroom, we have 2 portraits of me. Why not? We have portraits of John. And this one is by Camille Przwadek, another important club member. And she came down here, and I posed for this right outside our front door. And it's very much in the style of her mentor, the Provincetown group. And
She studied with an artist named Henchy, who was very strong about using these very distinct colors, and that's from the Provincetown tradition. So she studied with him, and she's a direct connection with Henchy and then Charles Webster Hawthorne, who founded the school. So when she came to paint the painting of Linda, she noticed a painting by von Schneider, also Provincetown, also in the same class as Henchy, but this was when he was when Hawthorne was still the teacher. So she loved this painting, and it's kind of an ancestor to the one she did. So this is in Provincetown. It was done in 1920.
it's kind of fun to see the similarities. Now this painting is a real gem. This is a painting of me by Mian Situ, the great Mian Situ. And I was really lucky enough to get this painting because I invited him to Orange County to put on a demo for the California Art Club Orange County chapter. And he said, "Sure, I'll come down and do it." And I said, "Well, Mian, can I be the model?" And there was, an ulterior motive in my question, because I figured, okay, Mian doesn't usually do commissions or anything, so this was a way to get him to paint my portrait. So he came down and he painted this portrait in, I'd say, 2.5 hours maybe. He didn't even want to take a break. And it was really just a lot of fun. And at the end of the portrait session, he actually presented it to John and me. And boy, was I smart or what?
This was at a demo he did at Randy Higbee Gallery that Linda set up. And while he was painting Linda, there was about 60 artists in the audience. You couldn't hear a word, but you heard a lot of phone camera clicking.
Yeah.
They were photographing every single move.
And Mian really doesn't say much, he just paints. But you could have heard a pin drop because every artist in the room was hanging on every brush stroke. And
this is a painting by Rick Humphrey. It was done when I first met him, which is about maybe 20 years ago. And it's a view of, this is the library, the Palos Verdes Library, so it's behind the library. And it's called A Morning in April. Now, when I bought the painting, it had a plain frame on it, but Rick said he was going to do a special frame, which he doesn't do anymore. And then about 6 months later, he came with this frame that has all sorts of beautiful decorations in the corner, and it has the inscription, and it has gold leaf. And he used to do this a lot, but he doesn't do it anymore because it probably takes as much to do the frame, as much time as it is to paint the painting. So.
But the painting is just so rich with color. Every single inch of this painting is just dotted with paint and color on top of color, and It's just so well developed. It's an amazing piece of art, and this is what I see on my side of the bed when I get up in the morning, and so it really does feel like a morning in April every morning. Well, I think we're coming to the end of the tour because we're running out of time. Of course, we could probably show you 50 more paintings, but I think it's enough, don't you, John?
Yes, I do. We're very happy to do this. We're looking forward to episodes when one of you collectors do the same thing. This is the COVID version of Everybody Visit a Collector. So we live in special times, and I'm glad we can do this virtually. I would rather do it with all of you here, but...
Well, we'll try to plan, something in the future, and if everybody enjoyed it and would like to see the paintings in person, we'd be happy to welcome you all to our home and put on a spread and have a great time. And maybe you'd even be willing to drive all the way to Irvine, which I hope this year in the summer you'll all be willing to drive to Orange County to see the California Art Club Gold Medal Show at the Hilbert Museum in Orange this year. So we've all got our fingers crossed and really, really hoping that show will be in person. John and I have had our vaccines. We're all ready to go. So we'll be looking forward to it. Anyway, from our home to yours, thank you for joining us.
Much.
And we hope we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.